So welcome again to our meeting of Bay Democrats. Again, our club covers territory of 45th Assembly District, have of Brighton Beach, Old Manhattan Beach, have of Shipstead Bay, Conquest, Midwood, Gravesend, Marlborough. This is great neighborhoods. I would say probably best in New York City. But some people prejudice. Of course, we have Councilman who represents Coney Island and Bensonhurst. We also love Coney Island and Bensonhurst, of course. Councilman Margarita Kagan. Our districts also intersected a little bit, so it's all great. We love our area, that's why we live here, you know, because we love it. And we want to be better every time. We have a lot of issues, unfortunately. I was very glad to learn that supposedly our legislature is going to allocate $2.5 billion for the entire state, though, to improve infrastructure, specifically sewage systems, water basins, etc., etc. It's a long overdue. We have such an old infrastructure. Some of our sewage systems were built in 1961. So, and instead of doing anything good with it, you know, instead we have just continued to build luxury condominiums at every possible corner, and nothing else, by the way, nothing else. As a result, it's difficult right now to use toilets in many places, you know. People complaining more and more. They cannot just use toilets because it's way too many buildings and nothing else. So I'm glad at least, maybe now we will see some investments in our infrastructure, at least in this direction. Of course it's not enough, because we have other issues. It's also electric grids, also transportation, also schools, because like, we do not represent Bay Ridge and Dunkerque, but we know like some of their classes have like 40 students in one class, because they don't have schools. And our area is popular. A lot of people are moving in. So we need maybe another school and another school. But I do not recall in like last 20 years big construction of a new school, you know, in our area. Only condominiums, you know. Of course, we need housing, not just condominiums, but so long story short, it's good that finally will be at least state investment into our infrastructure, crumbling, I would say, infrastructure. So we have a very busy schedule tonight, a lot of very interesting and amazing guests. So I'm very glad to see you all. Thank you for coming. Few developments happened in the last several days. I would just mention that last week I was honored to be in a Brooklyn Law School. I was invited to participate in a ceremony honoring a newly elected civil court judge, Rachel Ruhi Fryer. I talked about her at several meetings. She visited our club last year, asked for our support. We did support her. We didn't do way too much for her because like she was not so insistent, I would say. But we did something for her, like advertised her a little bit. And people noticed that there are some Russian immigrants living in Borough Park and in some other areas. So some people thought like it's a lot of stereotyping going on. Some people think that, like, for example, at Brighton Beach, only Russian immigrants live. That's not true. Just not true. Otherwise, why do they sell Mexican food in a grocery store, for example? If it's only Russians, for example. And a large Pakistani community, and a large Yugoslavian community, I would say. Some people don't know even that. And the same story, some people think that in Marlborough houses, it's only African Americans live in Marlborough houses. It's only people who never were there, who never visited Marlborough houses. I did. Like a lot of Asians, a lot of Russians, a lot of Hispanics. Like, we live in New York City, you know. That's why we call it the capital of the world. And if you look around, just look around. This is New York City, you know. This is Brooklyn, this is America. And I love it, and I hope you do. So, and they call it Bay Democrat. We choose this location because it's in the middle of the district, so it's convenient to everybody. Maybe to some it's longer trip, but still it's in the middle. It's not in Midwood, it's not in Brighton Beach, it's not in Gravesend, but it's in the middle location. And Bay Democrat because it's physically Shipstead Bay, and of course we're very grateful to Gregory Davidson and Davidson Radio. They're giving us this beautiful location. So without...
I have a question
Yes.
for you. Do you think we're a melting pot or big salad?
Well, I prefer, to be honest, I do not like personally, I do not like term melting pot. I'm not melting here, and I'm still where I am.
Wait, come July and August, you
I
may
like
know.
term mosaic, because people are themselves. People are still a cultural mosaic, religious mosaic, because people are continue to be themselves, representing their cultures, their religion, their ethnicity, their communities. And meanwhile, they're all together. Because when we're talking about elevator at Brighton Beach or elevator at Shipshead Bay station, I'm talking about, subway station. And we will probably wait for another 30 years. So it affects everybody. Green and blue, yellow and white, anybody. You know, like, because everybody needs subway, elevator at subway station. And now they're talking about Shipshead Bay subway station. But like it's all over South in Brooklyn, same issue. Like I remember it was a big press conference, Mark Traeger was organizer at F-Train Neptune Avenue. And the response was, not too many seniors and people with disabilities use Neptune Avenue F-Train subway station, so why to build elevators there? But why they don't use it? Because there is no elevator there. That's the whole point. And if you look about high rises around this station, plenty of seniors and plenty of people who need this elevator and escalator. And even this fictitious escalator in Brighton 7, it works like once a week. Like usually it doesn't work. So, by the way, it's also ignorance, in my personal opinion, by some people who are responsible for it, because like MTA just released new plan till 2020. You would not find anything from Southern Brooklyn on that plan. You would not find like anything like elevator on Ocean Parkway subway station or escalator for Shipshead Bay subway station or Avenue U subway station, nothing. It's all about other neighborhoods. Partially, to be honest, we are also to blame. Why we are to blame? Because some of us, not you, but some of us just don't vote. Some of us think they're too independent to vote on primaries. They're independent. I always say that like, I love people with independent point of view. But if they're independents, under the New York state laws, are not allowed to vote on primaries. So nothing depends on them, at least on primaries. So it's very stupid in my personal opinion. Just plain stupid to deny yourself ability to vote, not just in general election, but on primaries. So I wanted to introduce our first speaker. He's a very, very busy person, and the main fact that he's here, I'm like thrilled to introduce our good friend. Everyone knows him, of course. He's a co-chairman of Brooklyn delegation. He is councilman in 47 Councilmanic district. He's a very, very good friend of this club. He supported every initiative with, like, at every corner of our district, even if it's like not 45th Assembly districts, not his district, like he's still coming and people calling him from all over New York City, to be honest. And also because he's chairman of Resilience and Recovery Committee, which is like, by definition, affects everybody. Not just Brighton Beach or Coney Island, but also Farakkaway, Staten Island, and Guanan. He's a very, very hard-working person. Again, the mere fact that he's here, I'm thrilled, you know, because like I know how Mark Traeger is operating, you know. He is like 11 events a day, city council hearings, like 2 new legislation proposed, you know, another bill to sign, another press conference to criticize powers to be for doing something wrong, you know. He is never silent, by the way, never. He never takes no for an answer. And when he sees that nobody can help really on the city level, and even on the state level, he goes national. I remember how he blasted FEMA. And when everybody said that religious institutions after Sandy are not allowed to get a single dollar for recovery because they're religious institutions, no mosque, no synagogue, no church can get a single dollar, even if they're completely destroyed after Sandy, even if they housed kindergarten, even if they housed like senior center, even if they held programs, after school programs, no money. And like Councilman Traeger represents Coney Island, a lot of churches, for example. And one of the church, Coney Island Cathedral, was completely destroyed. So they needed like at least $200,000. We're not talking about like few dollars. And everybody said, forget it. It's a religious place. they're not allowed to get money. There was a vote in the Congress whether to allow FEMA to give some money to religious institutions. And by the end of the day, they said, no, we have a separation between church and state. But I totally disagree on that issue. Yes, we do have separation between church and state. But if religious institution provides service to entire neighborhood, like again, kindergarten I'm talking about, programs, seniors, and like synagogue on Brighton 6th Street, open its doors after Sandy, despite suffered itself, they open doors to Mexicans, to Pakistanis, to everybody just to live there for several days. Because that was the only place that could handle people at that moment for several days. And I came to Shorefront Toys, officially it's a Jewish center. I came down there, everybody was there getting help. It was FEMA center. Long story short, if religious institutions helping everybody, why everybody cannot at the moment of hurricane, little bit help this religious institution? But they voted no. Even Congressman Adler voted no. He said, no, no, religious institution cannot get it. What Councilman Mark Traeger did? He said, you know what? I'm not taking no for an answer. He started to look all over the country what to do about it. And he found one organization, Good Samaritan Foundation in, I believe, North Carolina, that provided help to victims of Katrina hurricane in New Orleans, and they gave some money to local churches. He contacted them. He involved, of course, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, who is like federal level, you know, and both of them, by the end of the day, managed to bring, I believe, about $300,000 to this particular church, which is now a beautiful church in the middle of Coney Island. I work there. It's amazing. It's amazing. What we found in North Carolina. So what should I think about the guy who, like, councilman from one district in Brooklyn, but who found how to help his constituents from foundation in North Carolina, you know, like, so. Because again, he never takes no for an answer when it comes to his constituents. So it is my absolute pleasure to invite here our good friend, Councilman Margarita. And he's also a very good cook. Yes. I think in his second life he will open at least 2 new restaurants. He's a very good cook.
I have to tell you, if I ever run for mayor, Harry Kagan will introduce me at all the That was quite an introduction. And I'll just, so that is true.
It's about church.
At the church.
At the restaurant.
The restaurants, one day. But my position was this. I am a former government teacher, a former history teacher. I fully respect the First Amendment, and I always will. However, let me say this, and I even had this conversation with Congressman Nagler and some colleagues in the council that had concerns about this topic. If it was not for houses of worship, right after Sandy, many more people would have died. That is a fact. That is a fact. And not one member of the clergy asked any of the victims, the survivors, what's your religion? Are you Christian? Are you Catholic? Are you Jewish? Are you Muslim? Are you Hindu? They didn't ask any of those questions. Now, to me, at minimum, if you can't physically rebuild their house of worship, can you reimburse them for the services that they rendered? And that, to me, if you feed somebody, if you house somebody, for example, there's a church called Coney Island Gospel Assembly. And do you know that they were providing free housing to volunteers to an organization called Habitat for Humanity? That's a global organization that rebuilds homes after a crisis. And they were giving the volunteers from all over the country free housing. They didn't ask for a penny. And so they're doing the public a service. And you tell me the public can't help them? And so that really disturbed me, that bothered me. But yes, that is true. I researched, by the way, here's just one little tweak to the story, Harry. I researched how houses of worship recovered, or if they recovered in New Orleans after Katrina. I found out that the Bush and Clinton foundations partnered up together to raise money for many of their churches. So I contacted those foundations, even before the Hillary campaign. I keep it real with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I was disappointed with their answers. they said, well, New Orleans is in a tougher spot than New York. So they need the money more than New York does. I said, excuse me, we're not talking about houses of worship on Park Avenue. We're talking about houses of worship in Coney Island or Red Hook or the Rockaways. This is not multi-million-dollar neighborhoods. And they said, I'm sorry, but we can't help you. So I did some more digging, did some more research, and we actually connected to, it's called Samaritan's Purse, which is founded actually by Reverend Billy Graham, his son. And they're from North Carolina. They flew out here. I met them, gave them a tour of some of our houses of worship. And it's true. They gave Coney Island Cathedral, which is the largest church in Coney Island, about $300,000. But I have to tell you, there's more money coming. They just gave Coney Island Gospel Assembly, the church I just mentioned that was housing volunteers to rebuild homes that also sustained damage. They just cut them a check for $300,000 as well. Wow. So they are. So that, and I appreciate that. But I came here to also just share with you some breaking news that's kind of disturbing. I did share this on my Facebook today that on Friday we're going to have a press conference at the Bay Parkway Promenade by overlooking Gravesend Bay. I got looped into an email, which I'm happy someone emailed me just a couple of days ago, that there was a significant oil spill in Gravesend Bay. That is the bay that's by Caesars Bay, that goes by Seagate, Coney Island, and goes right into this area. It appears that there's a fuel depot called Bayside Fuel that's located along Shore Parkway, and there was a spill of approximately or over 27,000 gallons of oil. Now, what disturbs me was that I was not contacted by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. My colleagues, Pamela Harris and Bill Colton, were not contacted by the DEC. The Congressman's office was not contacted by DEC. We keep having to find these things out through word of mouth and through these group emails, these advocate emails. And I am not going to be silent. Now folks are trying to contact people to find out what's going on as far as how to squash this. I'm not squashing this. This is going to be blown fully open. And we're going to have a press conference Friday at 10:30 demanding answers and accountability and transparency. This is frustrating because just a few months ago, we had someone from DEC come down to our district and publicly apologize for not telling us that in Beach Haven Apartments, which are by Avenue Z and Ocean Parkway, that apparently for many years, we don't even know how many years, they had illegal sewer connections that were dumping raw, untreated sewage into Coney Island Creek. 200,000 gallons a day of untreated raw sewage into a body of water where families fish, not just for fun, but for food. So, and I asked the DEC, when were you planning on telling us this? Do you know how we found out about this? Again, advocates in the community that do random water testing of Coney Island Creek found high levels of bacteria that relates to fecal matter. I keep it real again. And they said, why is it in such high levels? And there was also an odor coming out of the creek. And DEC did some testing and they talked to their people. No one told us anything. So someone came down from Albany and gave us this apology that we could do better with communication. We also want to know, are there any other illegal sewer connections dumping raw sewage into the creek? They found that there are more. They're still investigating how many more. And then this oil spill happens. And no one tells us a thing. So the very people that are charged with the responsibility to monitor and to protect our environment and our public health are the very people that have failed us time and time again. And they also contacted the EPA. The federal agency apparently came down. The Coast Guard was there. and no one told anyone anything. They're all talking to themselves.
Shocked that they.
So we are gonna have a press conference. We're inviting all the media down there. I've been in touch with the mayor's office. This is not a city. It affects the city, but this is jurisdiction of the federal and state government. The Parks Department was made aware of this. They're trying to say that they are in the process of cleaning it up and remediation. We don't know the extent of this spill. They're saying approximately 27,000 gallons. It could be more. There is some story that's evolving that, so if you ask me how did this happen, what I'm hearing is that someone at the fuel depot did not left his post before the transfer of oil, and it began overflowing. And so someone might have been negligent at the fuel depot. But again, I'm getting bits and pieces. I'm not getting an official report. So I imagine that there's an investigation. We're going to demand an investigation, quite frankly, possibly criminal investigation here, but something's got to give. So you got a question?
Yeah, well, a couple of questions. First of all, is there any federal law requiring transparency and accountability to the lower level? I mean, I know the state has to inform the federal, but does the state also have to go downward and inform the city level? So
it appears that the first agency that responded to this was the Coast Guard, which contacted both EPA and New York State DEC. And when they arrived, the Coast Guard left because they spotted, I guess, oil slicks coming into the water. But it just appears they talked to each other.
Right. And
no one really talked to the local government and the local community leaders and officials. The Parks Department got scattered information, not really official information. I spoke to the commissioner yesterday. So this is not a matter where Mayor de Blasio or his team kept this under. This is a matter of the state, in my opinion, failing to inform people. And it's not the first time they've done that. So we're actually in the process of examining everything that they're required to do. And I also know, for example, about a year ago, when they started doing the dredging by the transfer station, also by Gravesend Bay, they're supposed to have a monitor from the state DEC to make sure that the contractor is complying with all their safety regulations. There's some pretty bad stuff there from a former incinerator. And they're supposed to use what's called a clamshell bucket when they're dredging. So when they dig the bottom of Gravesend Bay, this bucket scoops up, the bottom sediment to make the water deeper, and it's supposed to be locked and then transferred into some sort of a barge and covered. Well, apparently the bucket never closed, and all the sediment was just spilling all over the place, onto land and all over the water. And someone captured this on home video. And guess what was missing from the video?
The top.
A monitor from DEC, who was required by the permit to be there. So when we got down to the site, we took our photographs, we got our information, and we contacted DEC. And of course, again, apologies galore. They also issued violations because they said that the contractor should have known that you can't work without the monitor there too, so it was their fault too. So everyone's pointing fingers at each other. So 2 violations, a stop work order, violations were issued. But if it was not for the vigilance of local residents, we would never have known about this. So I don't have any faith, honestly. I'm being very honest. I don't have any faith in these people. And also the EPA, which is not a track record of greatness either. The same EPA that said that the water quality was safe to drink in Flint, Michigan, is now telling us that don't worry, this is a minimal spill in Gravesend.
Well, the World Trade Center.
Right. So I will keep District Leader Ari Kagan and Margarita Kagan and the club updated. You're invited to join us if you're able to come there. But I wanted to share this news with you because it is kind of, it's recent, it's current, and it's breaking. Yes.
I just wanted to follow up on, was there any report of whether it's contained at this point? Do they put barriers around the water to contain the oil slick, or is it
their answers are contradictory. They're saying that they feel that the spill has been mostly contained, but in the same sentence they told us, we don't know the extent of the spill.
Okay.
So if you don't know the extent of the spill, how do you know if it's contained?
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Mark, we touched also on resiliency,
Yes.
which affects virtually everyone in the room.
Right.
About 2 weeks ago, I attended a meeting with city planning.
Right.
And at that time, they were talking about future plans and such. One of the things that came up at the meeting was that, particularly in Florida, where there's much flooding after there's any of these after there was much flooding in Florida and such, they have structures that are permitted to be built in the backyard or possibly side yard of homes where people who aren't extremely rich and don't have huge mansions, that they can move their boilers, their electrical works and such into the structure that would be resistant to a flood. This way you're protecting your house after any superstorm, hurricane as such. However, that this structure by city zoning text would be considered an incursion into the open space of the rear yard. So if you want to protect your home, you have to go hire an attorney or an architect or an engineer, spend thousands upon thousands of dollars, spend a year to 2 years in the system to get a zoning variance or a special permit. I told them at the time it should be comparatively simple for the city planning to do a zoning text change. Certainly for our areas from Seagate through Manhattan Beach, Sheepshead Bay and everything, if not the whole city, that would permit these structures as of right and not be considered a reduction of the open space. Their response was, that's a very good idea, and we're working on plans for the future, and in 2 or 3 years, we're gonna come up with plans for the whole city. I said, we could be dead by then. We could be drowned by then. People are gonna be out of their houses by then, unless you're guaranteeing no more storms. I says, how difficult, and no, it's not that difficult, would it be to do an emergency text change to permit people to save their homes? Saves the city money, saves the people money, such. And I told them at that time, publicly and privately, if you do the right thing and just address this issue, not all zoning text changes, which will include this in the future, then I'll keep quiet. If you don't do it right away, because June starts our hurricane season, I says, then it will be public. And at this point, they have not indicated that they're willing to do anything, and perhaps as chairperson of the Resiliency Committee, you can save all of us and with your fellow council members, to everybody.
This is a great issue. I'll try to be very brief, to be respectful of time. So yes, this is true. We did pass a zoning change for those properties that were in the, and still in the Build It Back program, because, for example, if your house was substantially damaged, at least 50% of the value was affected, then they give you the option of an elevation. Those families that want to elevate their home, that might conflict with the zoning of that area, because there's certain height restrictions. So we passed a zoning change to allow for those particular properties to go above the zoning regulations of that area. However, the point is well made. You have to look at everybody now. You can't just look at people that were hurt by Hurricane Sandy. So it's my understanding that they are, in fact, now examining a citywide zoning change to look at this. But let me just tell you a storm that is coming. It is coming 100%. That's called flood insurance. The city was able to buy us some more time, about a year and a half, 2 years. But this is my strong advice to people. If you live near the coast, which many of us do, right? We're in New York City. If you live near the coast and you're a homeowner and you're currently not required to purchase flood insurance, my strong advice to you is shop around now. Don't wait for the government to mandate you to get it. Because when they do that, when the new maps come out in about a year and a half to 2 years, and they mandate you to get flood insurance, the rates will be much higher. And I mean thousands of dollars higher. When there was flooding recently in the state of Louisiana, there were some severe floods in the past year. I don't know if you saw that in the television. What was devastating to people is that in addition to the damage to their home, about 40% of the homes affected had no flood insurance. So they're really, and FEMA will only give you a certain amount of money. FEMA will not give you everything, as we've learned here in New York City. So those families are bankrupt. They're done financially. So I am strongly urging people, if you're a homeowner, if you know someone who owns a home, and they're not required to, at this point, get flood insurance, get it.
Should be more publicized, because not
We are
everybody
going
is-
to, well,
Not everybody is aware.
and by the way, something, again, I like to read things. We should read in politics, right? I like to read. One of the things that the media is not publicizing, which they should.
Come on, this is
It's okay, listen, as a former teacher, I'm used to this. Although I would call
Silence your cell phones, it's movie theater now.
It should be allowed here.
respect.
Right.
That's the word.
when you examine how the current president plans to pay for the wall that he wants to build along Mexico, he's using your flood insurance money. He's counting on you paying more for flood insurance and then using that to pay for a wall.
He'll take it out of his own pocket.
And it really is outrageous on so many fronts and so many levels. Even if you are from Mississippi or Alabama, that states that voted for Trump overwhelmingly, they're going to be affected just like we are. They also have the issue of flood insurance. And I'm just shocked that this is not being discussed on a national level. Ari, we have to do the local voice here, because, and eventually we'll get national. This is coming. This is not, I'm not, just trying to spook people. The city was able to contest FEMA's original maps to say that their maps were off, and FEMA agreed to revisit the flood zones. But they said in about 1.5 to 2 years, they will be final, which means a lot more tens of thousands of people will be required to get flood insurance. And those costs will be very, very high. So what you just talked about were people that could use their resources to elevate their infrastructure. That's if you have resources. And the government is not really, unless you're in Build It Back. Build It Back will do it for you. But if you're not in Build It Back, you're on your own. And that's a problem. So I did ask the question to the city administration, are they willing to maybe give some tax credits or property tax benefits of some sort to working families? So far, I've heard silence. But this is a looming issue. This is coming, and it's going to hurt working families big time. You had a question, sir?
Yeah, to answer Maurice's question about, but people that have homes like I do, your homes are 80 years old, what you're talking about is Appendix G. And Appendix G is for elevation of the homes, and each home on each block would have a different elevation. It's supposed to be for resiliency, but if you have a home that's 80 years old, you're not about to lift it.
Right.
So what they should look at is the Appendix G and amend it, that people that have homes that are not able to be lifted or new construction, that you could bring it up on a higher level without having to request a special permit, going through the architects and the special permits. And now that when anything comes before our board in 15 on the zoning committee, which I'm a member of, we pass it if the elevation, because now if the floodplain on that particular block is 8 feet or 10 feet,
Right.
the homes are going to go that high with the flow through on the bottom. But for homes that can't be elevated, you're not about to elevate a house that's 60, 70, 80 years old with all the heating system,
Should be the
electrical
last
systems,
one.
all in the lower system. So that has to come under the Appendix G amendment.
So, you're correct that there are some properties in New York, many that cannot be elevated. We have in Coney Island and Canarsie, other parts of Brooklyn and the city, row houses that are very, can't lift everyone. But here's what they're trying to do to be innovative. They're trying to say that they want the homeowner to vacate the first level and then build a third or fourth level on top and turn that into a dwelling and vacate the first level altogether. Some people agree to that, some don't. And the way it works in New York, the way it works to build it back, you need your neighbors on both sides of your property to agree to do that.
You need that, but you also look at a construction that is a 60, 70-year-old home. If you're gonna bring it up from a 2-story to a 3rd story, you're gonna have to bring in steel.
And the last
You won't
thing,
be able to support
the last thing I'll
foundation
say
of
on
the
this
home.
topic, because I have to get going, because I don't want to take up too much time. My committee also exposed wasteful spending on this issue. There were homes in Queens that are valued at about $300,000 or less, that the city was paying Tishman Speyer over $1 million to elevate these homes. I mean, it was outrageous, and they conceded this point. Look, folks, I have to keep it real. I live in Seagate, and there are some homes that are literally by the water, and I have to be honest with some homeowners. If you bought a house literally on the ocean, by the ocean, expect the ocean to talk back to you one day. There are some folks in Staten Island, I think in the Oakwood section of Staten Island. The area's gone. And the borough president said, and I agree with him, Jimmy Otto, he said, look, you should not rebuild when you're right on the water. So the city and the state bought out some of the land, turning it into park land, to build up the area's resiliency. We built a lot of our homes on landfill. We extended a lot of land that never used to be there, and Mother Nature wants it back. So we have to be cognizant of that. So I will stop here, but Aaron, thank you so much for...
One more request, like, summer is coming, I hope summer is coming, you know, like, I still hope that, like, you know, have a good weather. And of course, a lot of people will use a boardwalk. And you know, like, people asking me, like, I can replace whole boardwalk, you know, like, but you know what is the condition of boardwalk today? It's like outrageous. I know it's a pain.
No. This is a painful topic for me, because this is very. It's frustrating for me that this is even an issue. I think it's so disrespectful to all of us in Southern Brooklyn that this is even an issue. I had a meeting about over a year and a half ago with the Parks Commissioners, who, look, I get it. Those people who live in the bubble, who are in City Hall, they might not understand what that boardwalk means to us. But to us, that's our Central Park. That's our Prospect Park. That's the world to us. That's accessible for all families, whether you are a working family, whether you're rich or poor or in between. That place is for all of us. And the conditions of certain areas of the boardwalk are despicable, embarrassing, and outright dangerous. People have fallen through. And they tried to, in the past, just cheat their way out of this problem. And they made some suggestions about using like these fake materials. And I said, Commissioner Silver, I say this respectfully because he's a decent person, but I got offended at his suggestion. I said, Commissioner Silver, can you imagine me going into Central Park and telling the Conservancy, look, to save the city money, let's just plant fake trees in Central Park. Let's just plant fake grass in Central Park. Prospect Park could use some fake tulips. They would roast me. They would really, I would not ever get any, if I ever run for mayor, they would not vote for me, let's put it that way. So it's disrespectful to tell us to use cheap or fake materials here. Let's begin with just safety. They said that the whole concrete debate. I used to teach government. I showed my students what happened in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina. Guess what those levees were made out of? Concrete. Thick concrete slabs. And here's another thing I'm not sure if you know. They call it Hurricane Katrina, but when it hit New Orleans, it wasn't a hurricane. It was a tropical storm. So the winds were under 70 miles an hour. It wasn't churning up major waves, but there was a storm surge. And that destroyed these thick slabs of concrete. So I told the commissioner, I said, so you're gonna guarantee the public that concrete is gonna protect us? He says, no, I can't guarantee that. Seagate has a bulkhead, or had a bulkhead. It's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean right now, made out of concrete, gone. There's no silver bullet to this, folks. I want to be very honest with people. People think that we can build these walls and somehow things are great. If you build a 10-foot wall, Mother Nature will give you a 20-foot wave. Mother Nature will always find a way. So if they tell you, oh, this will protect you, I'm sorry. The smart thing, in my opinion, is to elevate critical infrastructure to minimize the impact. But you're never going to fully erase the impact. That, to me, is BS when they try to tell you that. Last questions, I don't want to, folks really have to leave.
I just wanted to mention also by Manhattan Beach,
Yeah.
there used to be a promenade from like Coney Island Avenue going down, and it was destroyed by a hurricane, and you still see remnants of it behind the houses along Manhattan Beach going down towards Kingsborough.
What was it made out of?
Concrete. It was a concrete.
There you go.
If anyone who's walked on the tracks there sees the remnants.
There you go.
Okay, thank
All
you so
right,
much.
thank you, Larry. Thank you all so much.
So I wanted to acknowledge our friend, District Leader Dilia Shak. Dilia, thank you for coming. We have several judges here and several candidates for judicial positions. So I will probably start with Odessa Kennedy, civil court judge. I assume many of you voted for you, and she was our attorney of the year in 2015 in December. So Odessa Kennedy, could you wait for a second? I see acting Supreme Court Judge Stephen Mostofsky. Hi Stephen, thank you for coming. And I don't see any more sitting judges, so I wanted to acknowledge Canuela Melendez. She is running for civil court judge. And we spoke last time, so this time we will just smile. Yeah. And I also talked to Elaine Shak Rodriguez, attorney. She's also running for civil court judge this year for her life. And she happened to be daughter of Dilia Shak and late Arnie Shak, Supreme Court judge, whom we love very much. You know, thank you for coming. I will give a chance to speak a few words later to our good friend and long-time member since day one, Brian Gotlieb. He's also trying to run this year for a civil court in the 6th district, because this year is not just judges worldwide, but also in particular districts. Sometimes it's like all over Brooklyn, sometimes in some part of Brooklyn. And 1 second. I'm afraid to forget someone. Isila Isaac, she was last time also. She's also running for civil court judge. Did I miss any other judges? No, not yet. Okay. Someone will come, I will introduce to you. And I mentioned already that I was at a ceremony honoring Rachel Fryer, but was the most important about her winning this seat and becoming civil court judge from Borough Park, Dyker Heights, Kensington, Bensonhurst and some other areas, that when she decided to run, everybody told her, don't run, doesn't make any sense, you will never gonna win, for several reasons, but the main reason was because she is a woman. She was a woman, that was the main reason. They said like, Hasidic men will never vote for a woman, some others also will never vote for a woman, and so there was another candidate in this race who was a man, so like this, forget it, you know, like, and she was very determined, like never listened to any of these so-called naysayers and skeptics. Some of them called me after she came to our club, and like she addressed bad Democrats, and I published a picture on the Facebook, and I started to get calls that I'm out of my mind, because like she's going to get like 5% of the vote. But since I heard it about myself many times before, so I knew, like, okay. So she's a civil court judge, she won decisively, and in November she got 74% of the vote. And like now everybody who said like, no, she would never be a judge, of course she is a judge. She helped like these people and that people, and she helped that community and that community, besides having 6 children, graduated from Brooklyn Law School, and even now she's still a paramedic. She has a license to be a paramedic, and at night sometimes she's picking up phone calls from women who need her help, and she's going there helping them, and several times she even helped women to deliver a baby when it was like an emergency situation. So like I talked to her husband and said, how are you managing all of this? So many children and so many responsibilities, and she's a judge, sometimes night shift, you know. Like I know that Odessa candidate today is supposed to be in the courtroom, she exchanged with another judge.
With Rachel, actually.
Yeah.
I ran with
Ah,
Rachel.
with Rachel. So you know what I'm talking about. She's an amazing woman, but the most important, when person is like hard-working person, is like knowing what she is doing or he is doing, and like never listen to anybody who is saying to you, you cannot do it, because you can. All of us can do it, you know, like we are the strongest, the wealthiest country on earth, the strongest country on earth, and the strongest people on earth, because we made it. We live in America, and this is the best proof that we are the strongest people. So now I want to give a chance to say a few words to Odessa Kennedy. I already in some way introduced her, you know, because she also heard from many people that like she would never able to make it, because like yes, she was not endorsed by county, but to be honest, Margarita can attest that like we endorsed her at a meeting at the executive board of county committee. We didn't collect signatures for Odessa County, we collected signatures under petition with Canuel and Melendez. We didn't know you by then, but now we know you much more, and I already told a lot of people, and I'm telling you that Margarita and I like planning this year to help Canuela to make it to civil court. She definitely deserved it. But now I wanted to give a chance to say a few words to Odessa Kennedy. Of course, it didn't hurt to have a first name Odessa, to have a last name Kennedy, in Southern Brooklyn, in America. But you know, besides having good name, Odessa is a very determined person. She's a very hard-working person. She went everywhere. Like each time I opened like internet, she's distributing school supplies in Chinese community. She's doing like helping like people in this New York. She's helping someone on Brighton Beach. She's coming to that town hall and that town hall. I couldn't believe it. Like, you know, like she was all over the places. Like she was running not for a judge, but maybe she was running like for a mayor. You know. Like. Okay, Odessa Kennedy.
On speed dial. And after I became a judge, I never heard from him. You know, it was almost like, you know, he's gone, he's out of my life. And accidentally, we bumped into each other, and I said, Ari, how come I don't get emails from you? How come I don't get mails from you? And then he's like, yeah, I think he felt a little guilty. He was blushing, he turned red. He said, you want to come to our next club meeting? I'm like, yeah, if I could talk Rachel Fryer into, because I was supposed to be on night court tonight, filling in for me. Her and I are good friends. We ran together. Sure. So Rachel actually agreed to do my night court shift tonight so that I could be here and I could thank you all for supporting me. So I just wanted to basically be in touch. I didn't want to take your vote and say bye. I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you. I really intend to be part of this community. I want Ari to continue to invite me to the extent that he can, because I could no longer participate in any political activities, but if there's something that he could think of, I could come to, right? Yeah. I mean, for the first 6 months after the election, it's okay. I could go to, you know, political events such as this. So I was elected November 6th. So I could, you know, the clock is ticking. So basically, I just wanted to come here and thank you so much. I am a civil court judge, and they put me in criminal court. So I'm at 120 Skirmahorn. So right now, you know, I am a criminal court, and I do arraignments. They put me in different parts, and I love it. You know, it's it's a really great position because you could actually, this is the time to actually make an impact. You know, as a litigator, I was a litigator for 20 years, and I represented a lot of people from all walks of life, and I felt good in representing people. Now you could actually, you know, you could actually make an impact. You know, yes, there is this system is a great system. It's a great justice system. It's based on constitutional rights. And, you know, as a judge, it's my obligation to make sure that those rights are protected. So I'm very, very honored. I'm very, very privileged to be a judge. And I thank God every day for the opportunity that God has given me, and of course you as the voters have given me. And you know, I just ask that you pray for everyone, including me, to continue to be a good judge, and I'm going to do my best every day. So just, Ari asked me to say a couple of words about criminal court. Criminal court is a really, it's a very special place. We have the most defendants, when I say we, in Brooklyn, anywhere in the United States. It's that we are so busy, the judges are so busy. The calendar could be anywhere from 100 cases a day. And you have to like really, you have to get to everyone, because if you don't get to them, like for example, if you're doing arraignments and you don't finish the arraignments and you go home, well guess what? The people that you were going to release on their own recognizances are going to have to spend the night in jail. So we're under a lot of pressure to try to do this as fast as we can. In the same time, we have to know the files. So that's been like the biggest challenge, especially for us who are, pretty much beginners, how to try and do that. And yeah, so there's a lot of overtime that we don't get paid for, and which is fine. But that's really like the most challenging part. The volume is the most challenging part. So basically, we sit in arraignments. What happens in arraignments? The defendant comes in. He's in jail. They bring him back or her back from jail. They're handcuffed, and the judge makes a determination as to whether or not the defendant should be released. And what the judges in New York could consider is only whether or not they are flight risk. So, for example, if this particular defendant is potentially dangerous, believe it or not, we are not allowed to set bail based on danger. We could only set bail based on flight risk. So you basically review the defendant's history. You find out whether or not the defendant had prior arrests, whether or not if he did have prior arrests, he made his court dates, whether or not he could be trusted to come back to court, community ties. You look around to see if he's got any family, who's here for them. You look at the rap sheet, and if you see a lot of out-of-state contacts, you know that he's pretty much everywhere. So,
quick question on
right.
that issue. Like a lot of stories in newspapers
Right, yeah,
all
see.
the time about like defendants being
Yes.
released, like you're saying, without any bail, and then only then they are killing someone, raping someone,
Absolutely.
doing something. Then everybody learning that they had like 16 or 17 prior arrests.
right.
They attacked with guns police officers, and they did a lot of
It's
other
hard.
stuff in different states, but they're released because they're not flight risk.
Okay.
How
Well,
does
you
it
know
work?
what?
They're not flying away, they're killing people on the street.
I'm not saying anything political, but whose fault is that? Judges don't make the laws, right? Judges don't make the laws. For some strange reason, in Albany, a group of people decided that the judges should not be considering the dangerousness of the crime as a factor to set bail. So, do I agree with this? It's irrelevant, because as a judge, I have to apply the law. But it is what it is in New York. And actually, New York is one of the only states that has that. So when you look at the flight risk, a lot of times, like you look at the rap sheet and you find out that, the defendant had, hypothetically, 20 prior arrests, he didn't appear, like he had like 5 failures to appear. You know that, you have no reason to believe that in your case, he's going to miraculously appear in court. So basically, then, how much bail to set, it depends, again, community ties. You try to figure out his employment history, whether or not he's marketable, whether or not he's working, things like that. So, I don't know how much time I have, but there also...
Again, don't get me wrong, I'm not for clogging jails, like my point is, but some cases when it's so obvious, you don't need to be a judge when you see again, like cases with someone like having
Absolutely.
17 prior arrests, like attack on police officer I read, and something else, and then they're saying,
Right.
okay, he's not going to fly to
Right.
to Australia, he's going to kill right here in Brooklyn,
Exactly.
while
No.
he's not on a bail.
Look, again, I'm a judge.
And sometimes not even a bail, like even $1,000 bail could save lives,
Right.
Again, I'm not in favor of putting everybody to jail, no way. But in some extreme cases, I'm not blaming judges, you're right, probably should be, maybe if it's a state law, should be some other factors considered, not just flight risk, but something else.
Well, that's
Number
going to
of
be up
prior
to
arrests,
you.
etc.,
You guys
etc.
help me
What
become
kind of
judge,
arrests, what
change
kind
the
of
law.
crimes?
If that's how you feel, then you're going to have to change the law. But it's not, judges don't make the laws, and you're 100% right. Most of the states actually require the judges to consider whether or not the defendant is a danger to society as a factor in setting bail. New York does not. So if you actually consider that, and there's evidence that you consider that, it could get reversed. So I guess what you guys need to do is to listen to Ari and see, you know, what we can do, or what, I'm not involved in politics, I keep.
We have to look at this statute, you know, because something is like, again, I remember they blamed Judge Edwards that she released someone, but then she told me that like, also like sometimes there is a sealed information about arrest. She had no idea until she read the newspapers herself that this particular person had like 2 huge arrests in other states. She had no idea. She didn't see everything. When she made her decision, you know, she said, I had no idea about it, you know, because like it was not presented to her.
No,
so sometimes also you cannot blame the judge.
Absolutely, and a lot of times you have domestic violence cases. A lot of domestic violence cases get dismissed. Why? Because the complaining witness, usually the girlfriend or the wife, when the case, you know, when the time comes for them to convert basically to present the case, they don't want to testify. So if they don't want to testify, unless the district attorney has other basis to prosecute the case, those cases get dismissed. So you have our redundancy. He always rushed me, even when I was a candidate. So I thought tonight, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go there. I'm going to say what I want. I'm the judge now. He's going to, but no. Okay, just 1 more minute. All right. So that's
any more questions?
They haven't even asked 1 question. Any more questions? All right. But anyway, I get it. I will go now. Thank you so much for inviting me. Let's be in touch again.
Just one second. Judges, but also trying to invite like, small business owner from our district, or like leader of a non-for-profit from our district, a community leader who can talk about important issues or important, you know, aspects that we don't know in our life. You know, like I invited tonight one lady. You probably heard about her organization. Like it's very hard to live in Southern Brooklyn and meet someone who never heard about Brighton Ballet School. You know, this school is like, I believe this year celebrating 30th anniversary. And like about tens of thousands of teenagers now, they're no longer children, no longer teenagers, they're like adults graduated from Brighton Ballet School. And the official territory, headquarters, like school itself is in Kingsborough Community College, but students are coming from all over New York City, but of course mostly from Brooklyn and mostly from Southern Brooklyn. So that's why I invited tonight amazing lady. She was profiled, and Brighton Ballet School was profiled in New Yorker, in New York Times, and in Daily News, and so many publications, and New York One many times. So Irina Rozina. She's executive director of Brighton Ballet School and Theater also. And I saw students performing at graduations, at inaugurations, and like just recently, I believe at Pamela Harris' inauguration. Margarita, don't sit there. Yes. Before she started to speak, we decided on behalf of you, on behalf of the Democrats, to give her this certificate of appreciation, please, for all the efforts. And also, small token of appreciation, and Irina doesn't know about it. This is like small donation, $200 check to Brighton Ballet School.
Thank you very much.
Another smile to the camera. And check. Thank you. So when you attend fundraisers, it's not like for me going someplace, it's to constituents and to people in 45th Assembly District. Again, thousands and thousands of children. At some point, my daughter also was in that school, so I have a soft spot. But to be honest, I was on the board of that school for 10 years before my daughter. I was with this school before my daughter was even born, you know, because I see a great work. And every year, by the way, I know in June, annual event. Could you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, with hearing so many problems that we have in our community, and probably one of the things that makes us happy is to bring up our children in the right way. So Brighton Ballet Theater, even though we're a dance school, we really pay a lot of attention to the kids' intellectual, physical, and social problems. We want them to grow up as very good people, not just professional dancers, but we hope that dance will help them in any field. So I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful to the community that supports our kids, and that our school is a not-for-profit organization. It was my idea to create a scholarship program, one of the largest scholarship programs in Brooklyn. We have up to $50,000 a year in scholarship for kids. So that gives the kids opportunity. That's why we have children that come from Queens, from Staten Island, from different parts of Brooklyn, because they know that we have the scholarship program for boys, for children in need, for children, for immigrants family that just came to this country and cannot afford to give the kids after school programs. So this is our main thing, which I'm very proud that our school accepts everybody. Without any problems. Do they have money or don't have money, they still can take classes in our school. So
yes. Brighton Public School gave so many scholarships to children from families who couldn't afford this, you know, like it's amazing, the game. And June, what date, June?
Every June, this year, June 19th and June 20th, we have
June 19th and 20th at Kingsborough Community College, the annual concert. Tickets are usually $20, so
we also give a lot of tickets.
And some tickets are free, you know, like so. My point is, like, this is amazing school, and everybody is there. Asian Americans, African Americans from Coney Island, Italian Americans from Bay Ridge, Russian Americans, you know, like everybody dancing together. This is exactly what we're talking at the beginning. This is the United States of America in Brighton Ballet.
Where at Kingsborough were you?
in T7.
Okay.
Our festival is called the World of Dance Festival. We introduce people to the dances from around the world. So it's interesting.
Latino
Please
dance is
welcome.
amazing. Every dance possible.
Please welcome.
And you know, I'm a
Thank you
witness,
very
like
much.
kids, just you know, parents are getting birth to kids, and then they go one by one going to this village.
Like I see dancers like 4 years old, 5 years old, and then like teenagers, and then older, you know, like
Three generations already.
yeah, all
In
possible
30 years,
generations,
three
you know, like,
generations.
and different costumes. So I advise everybody to go in June 19th and 20th to watch it, because it's a beautiful. You don't need to go to Manhattan, really. Like you will be amazed. You know, it's a 2 or 3 hours. Like you're sitting like this, you watch every possible like
You can
country in the world. You
how
see.
many tickets you need. We have a special tickets society for seniors and for people that
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much for coming.
thank you. Thank you.
Of course, I wanted to give a chance to speak. Stephen Mostofsky, he is an acting Supreme Court judge. He's a good friend of our club. He lives in Midwood. His wife is on our county committee, and like very knowledgeable. You know, like what I like about Stephen a lot, like his demeanor, his temper. It's very important from White House to City Council to have a right temper. You know, like so in this case, we have a right temper and fair judge. Stephen Mostofsky.
I actually yelled at somebody yesterday, and one of my court officers said, "I never heard you raise your voice before." So I was elected 5 years ago. I spent some time on the other side of that window. Gregory and the community came out for me very strongly. I was in the same district as Ruffy, and I can tell you that it's not easy to run for anything, but the judicial districts are tremendously large, and the summer is very hot, so it's not so easy. I sat in family court for a year, sat a little bit in the civil court, and this year I became an acting Supreme Court judge, and I'm sitting in the mental hygiene bar. Now you listen to the train on the TV sometimes, somebody who's mentally ill pushes somebody in front of a train or attacks somebody. I can tell you that from the small amount of cases that come in front of me every week, that there probably is it's probably going to be impossible for the city of New York to completely correct the problem of the mentally ill and the homeless, because there aren't enough hospitals or places to put them. People come into me, they've attacked members of the family, they've been picked up on the street, they have diseases like schizophrenia or bipolar that are uncontrollable. Parents take out warrants on their own family members. People are in the hospital and they refuse to take medication. And these people have paranoia, and not to make light of it, but we had somebody who actually believed that the entire field of psychiatry was invented by the Chinese government only to make him crazy. And you sit there sometimes and you say to yourself, where do these people think of these things? And that's part of the mental illness. And there's medications that they try to help them with. But at the same time, when you put them in the hospital, you're taking away their civil rights. So that's why people also want to know, why is this in court? Because it's very important that even though these people need to be in the hospital, well, they do have some rights. And we take it very seriously. The attorneys for the hospitals and the other agencies have to actually prove why these people need medication, why these people need to be hospitalized, why they need to be hospitalized for a certain amount of time. And they don't always get what they want. Some of these people have worked very hard to get to the point where they can get out in a short period of time. Somebody today, I had, for example, there's some kind of supervision. Somebody today actually asked for supervision because they had enough of going to the hospital, and they felt that if they had a year of supervision, they'd be able to make it so they wouldn't go back. So I was very surprised when I walked in there. They said, okay, you're in charge of this part. It took me some time. Thank God I had some people that work on my staff that worked there before. But I find it's a very, very important part that most people don't know about. People sort of kid me and they go, oh, you're in the mental hygiene part. But until I was there, I never realized how important it is for everybody. Anybody's family could be hit with this. I saw a video of a gentleman who was a 30-year-old accountant. He's listening to the radio during lunch, and all of a sudden the radio starts talking to him. And these are terrible, terrible diseases, and they come through my court on a daily basis. And we try as best as we can, but I live in the neighborhood down in Midwood. I don't know if it's called the neighborhood here, Ari, I don't know. But I know Ari for a while, and again, as I said, I had tremendous support here in the neighborhood, and I thank everybody. I thank Ari for giving me a chance to say a few words tonight. I'll be back on another Tuesday night. Don't worry.
Okay, any more questions? Because like agenda basically it, but maybe we have some issues. I see some new faces, some young faces. Do you want to say a few words? No? Okay. We have some new members, by the way. Today I was a little bit nicely surprised. We received like 4 new membership checks. Our membership is annual membership is $20 a year, not such a big amount. Again, our money goes only for our club activities. For renting this space. By the way, very minimal amount. Thank you to Gregory Davidson. We are paying very little for this room, and he's helping us also with promotion and everything. So Davidson Radio has also newspaper, has TV, has phone company and everything. And also we support some good organizations in the district. So if you have idea, by the way, whom to invite to the next club meeting, which is actually May 3rd. Wednesday, May 3rd is the next club meeting, 7 p.m. Each time is the first Wednesday of the month, 7 p.m. So if I forget to call you, please remember. And yes, in June we are going to ask you to help with petitions, because still we're going to collect signatures. I will share with you last story. Did I acknowledge you? No, I didn't acknowledge.
Yes, you did.
You did, okay. You're next. Brian Gotlieb, by the way, he's also organizing a great Shorefront Toys for Tots event. I want you to say a few words about Shorefront Toys for Tots, please. Brian Gotlieb, I forgot. Also, by the way, Brian Gotlieb is considering running, seriously considering running for civil court judge in the 6th district in Brooklyn, which is Park Slope, Kensington, East Flatbush, and some Kensington, I believe, and some other.
Park Slope, the area around Prospect Park.
Park Slope, I mentioned, yeah. So, though it has nothing to do officially with 45th Assembly District, but the reality is everybody talking to each other. And sometimes you never know, maybe you have friends there, relatives, you talk to people, I talk to some district leaders, and bingo, we can help person to become a judge from our club. So we always encourage. Also I wanted to acknowledge Leah Moses. She's a very hard-working person working for Assemblywoman Pamela Harris. Hi Leah.
Hi.
So, Brian Gotlieb, talk about Shorefront for Tots events. This is an amazing organization delivering toys to underprivileged children.
Well, first, it's wonderful seeing so many old friends and some new ones as well. Shorefront Toys for Tots is an organization that I created in my mother's memory. My mother passed away in 1993. She passed away during my first semester of law school. It's actually, she passed on my birthday, was buried the day before her 53rd birthday. And Shorefront Toys for Tots was started, you know, in her memory and her honor, as she was somebody who always gave back to the community, somebody who was always involved, and somebody who always taught me the importance of giving back, the importance of helping others, people who weren't able to help themselves. And the most needy in the community are our children, our seniors. And my mother was very focused in terms of children, of paying it forward, of doing the right thing, whether it was helping get clothing during the winter, books, education, anything of that nature. Shorefront Toys for Tots was started in 1995, and since then we've worked to help out more than 38,000 kids in southern Brooklyn. And what we've done is distribute books, games, puzzles, toys throughout the holiday season, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa. We've started doing child safety programs, different educational programs, anything that we can do to help the children. And part of this is we hold a fundraiser during Mother's Day where we honor surrogate mothers, people like my mother who went about it because doing the right thing, not necessarily because they were worried about a newspaper or a reporter or, you know, someone taking pictures and saying, oh, look at me, I'm so wonderful, I'm doing X, Y, or Z. And I'm very proud to say that one of our honorees this year is right here, Irina Roizen. Now, we have 7 wonderful honorees this year. We have Maritza Davila, who's the Assembly member for the 53rd Assembly District. She's a former school board president, somebody who's very active in different children's causes. Karen DeTola, who's the principal of Mark Twain Junior High School. Judy Fraser, who's the director of Children's Christian Education at Coney Island Gospel Assembly. Rena Horn, the principal of Public School 212. Donna Neglia, who's the principal of Public School 216. Alamaya Philipose, who's a certified nurse midwife at Coney Island Hospital. Somebody who's helped bring in thousands of kids into the world, literally, over the years. And, of course, Irina. And what we do is we take everything that's raised and we work to distribute it throughout the community. And should I talk about anything other than Shorefront Toys for Tots, or?
You want to say a few words about 6th district?
Sure, if I may.
Okay.
Oh, just to let you know, I'm somebody who was raised in a single-parent family by my mother and my grandmother. I went to school at Midwood High School. I went to college at NYU. I have my master's degree from the University of Florida and my law degree from New York Law School. The bulk of my practice has been personal injury law, medical malpractice, legal malpractice, and it's been on the plaintiff's side. And that ties into my history of being active in the community. Again, something that I was taught by my mother, always being active, being involved. The former chair of Community Board 13. I served on the Board of Trustees of Temple Beth Abraham, on the board of my development. I live in Trump Village. And it's always finding different ways to be helpful, always being active, always being involved. And this is something that I hope to do. I hope to have the opportunity with Ari and Margarita's help and all of you, and if you have friends in the 6th, I would appreciate you telling them, introducing me, saying, you know, how we could work together to help people that need the help the most.
Brian received Community Service Award from our club at one of our annual dinners, so like he was at the first when we just did grand opening of our club. He never missed a club meeting, he never missed any event of our club, so like we wish you to pass the selection committee by county by the end of April, and then full speed ahead. We definitely will support you. Again, people who are members of our club are our club priority. You know, like you are our priority by definition. You know, like, and then we consider everybody who is qualified, who is decent, who is like fair. Especially when we're talking about judges, the most important, besides of course qualifications and legal education and experience, all of this is very, very important. We always say very important to be fair, just, integrity, because like, you know what happened in the last several decades in New York State, I do not want even to start, you know, like, each time like you mention some name, then next day you open the paper and you don't want to read it. So like, especially on a bench, we don't want anybody who is like, has no integrity whatsoever. And like last year, I was disturbed to receive several text messages before the vote for one candidate that we liked very much. She was here many, many times, Kate Levine, and I received text messages on my personal cell phone from supporters of another candidate for judge, saying that Kate Levine is horrible, la la la, and da da da, and never vote for her, she's dirty game, and blah blah blah. And same story was with when Noah Deer was running for Supreme Court. We received emails that he is super racist, and then after he became a judge, everybody said he's a fantastic person, you know, like so. The point is like, anybody who is using dirty tricks, and if this person is running for judge, and this person encouraging his friends to say bad things about other judge, that's disqualifier immediately to me. And I said several times why I admire Canuela Melendez. The first thing she did when she lost her election, she published like huge post on her Facebook thanking everybody who trusted her, who supported her, and she praised Brooklyn community, she praised everybody. That was very impressive. Instead of being very bitter and upset and bashing everybody who was not with her, you know, like she praised everybody. That showed, like, to me it showed the character of Canuela, and that's why it's so important that we support decent people for every position, especially for judge. But talking about Brian was with us from the very, very beginning. So, of course, we wish you success, and like any support we can provide with Margarita anytime. Okay? I want a picture. From all over the world, from Israel, from Russia, from Canada, from America, and like she doesn't want to say it because she's saying it's I'm district leader.
I'll say next time.
But she's next time will be a little bit late, so it's 14, May 14. So like, also of course I wanted to wish anybody who celebrate here, including myself, happy Passover, happy Easter, all possible holidays we always celebrate, the beauty of America. You can enjoy every possible holiday, and now every community in America, especially in New York, wants a holiday in the school. So the last community who didn't get a day off in the school was immigrants from India. Now they're pushing for Diwali celebration, one more day off from the school. If it happens very soon, we will have 3 or 4 days of the school year, you know. Like, and every community will celebrate the It's happening every year, something. At one hand, I love everybody, but on the other hand, I want my daughter to go to school and to study something. So, but that's the beauty. Elaine, you want to say any words?
I'll be very, very brief.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to Ari and Margarita for inviting me here. My name is Elaine Schaff Rodriguez, and I am a candidate for civil court countywide on the Brighton Beach district. I'm taking on the task of the entire borough. A little bit about myself. I am a native of Brooklyn. I actually, my first home was very near here, Ocean Parkway and Avenue Z. And then my parents moved me and my brother to Bay Ridge, and that is where I grew up. It's where I went to public schools. I did go to Midwood High School though, so I have a connection here. And I do reside in Bay Ridge right now with my husband. He's a police officer, and our 2-year-old daughter, Olivia, who keeps me on my toes. So I'd just like to say thank you again for having me here. My legal background is I went to Boston University School of Law. I've been practicing for almost 14 years now. I started off as a plaintiff's personal injury attorney, and I got a lot of litigation experience doing that. I was in court, I did trials, I did motion argument, drafted lots and lots of motions. From there I switched over to the defense side for a little bit, and I did corporate work, securities litigation for the most part. And for the last 3.5 years, I've actually been working in civil court, which is the position that I want to be in. The judge I work for is Teresa Ciccato. I think she's a friend of this club.
We supported Teresa Ciccato for civil court judge.
Right.
She was here several times.
I'm sure if you saw her, you would remember her. And she's been an amazing mentor to me. I've learned a lot. She's really wonderful at what she does, which is helping people resolve their cases without going to trial. Because, you know, when you go to trial, someone's obviously going to lose. So we try to help people see what their options are, weigh them. We try to explain what their options are under the law, and to get them to resolve things amicably. That's really the best scenario for both sides, really. You know, we always try and help compromise, and she's helped me tremendously in learning how to do that, because it's a skill, and I feel like I've learned this skill, and I've combined with my prior legal experience of doing plaintiff's work and defense work, and now working within the court system and drafting several judicial decisions. I feel like I have the experience now to pursue this judgeship, and also I feel that I have the temperament, and as Ari, you touched on this, temperament has a lot to do with it too. You don't want a judge sitting there screaming at you, or worse yet, not listening to what you have to say. And unfortunately that happens sometimes. I do believe that, you know, judges are elected by the people, and we should be responsible to the people and hear and listen to people and really hear their side of the case and judge things fairly and with integrity and treat people with respect. And that's why I'm running for this judgeship, because I do want to help people. My father was a Supreme Court justice for 16 years, and I learned a lot from him as well. He always taught me to put people first, and if you can help someone, to help them. He really, what I learned from him was he took on the banks in a way that people weren't doing. When the foreclosure crisis came, he took the lead on trying to find ways to get people to stay in their homes, basically. He found a lot of faulty paperwork within those foreclosure actions. And he really discovered it because, you know, people were signing off. He dug in and he looked at all the paperwork, and I'm talking about paperwork, and he, you know, he taught me the value of hard work. You have to look through everything. He read the papers, and lo and behold, he discovered, oh, things weren't on the up and up. There were he found something called robo-signing, which became a term of art that now everyone sort of knows in that industry. But basically what that means is that the banks were having people sign off on mortgages, and they weren't even looking at the paperwork, foreclosures rather. They weren't looking at it, they were signing it here and there, not notifying people. People didn't even know who owned their mortgage, so they couldn't figure out who to pay. It was a mess. But I bring this up because I have to say that it was one of the things he was most proud of. It was one of the things that affected me, because I really learned that you always have to look into things.
To share with you, because like all members of Executive Committee of Brooklyn Democratic Party received today a mass email, urgent, please answer whether you will endorse or not endorse re-election of Mayor Bill de Blasio. And before many of us was able to answer, already like Frank Sadio, chairman of our party, said, no, ignore this email, like that's not how it works. We will have a meeting of executive board, we will discuss, and then we will make endorsement or non-endorsement, or discuss mayoral primary. But I managed, before he sent second email, I managed to reply. I replied, no. No. And I can tell you why I replied no right away. It was easy choice, like such an easy choice for me. Number one, he never showed up in our club. He never interested in our club. He never showed up in our community. He never showed up in 45th Assembly District. He never showed up at Marlborough houses. He never showed up at Brighton Beach. I never saw him at Manhattan Beach. I never saw him at Shipshead Bay. I never saw him at Homecrest. Like I represent, like Margarita and I, we're not like, you know, we represent you, you know, like, and if mayor of New York City in 3.5 years didn't care about you, why should I care about him, you know? Yes, he affects my life every minute and every day, but he wants our endorsement. And why should I endorse a person who doesn't give a damn about us, you know, like so. That's why I immediately answered no, and I will repeat it again at our executive meeting, you know, like so. I know that like some areas of the city are more important than other areas of the city. But 45th Assembly District and all of you count, you know. You are very important people, as I said. We're done for tonight, so you can hang out, you can talk. I'm still here, so thank you very, very much for coming.